Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in Can of Hope Podcast, Episode 3. I have Paula Ordaz, Director of the Fort Collins Rescue Mission, local assistant shelter facility in Fort Collins. And so we're really excited to have her joining us. This is Episode 3, Mentor. Our theme of the show is Challenge, Inspire, Mentor. Me being a self-resolved member of the homeless community, I know a lot of what got me there was like emotional trauma, but what kept me there was my own actions.
Right.
And me being a resolved member, I feel I'm at a position where I can speak on it. And so the challenge aspect is, really to challenge people who are going through it to make daily attempts every day. I just went through sorry, I'm a little out of breath, but I went through my second DWAI, and I had a coworker give me advice on the day after I got arrested, and he said, small victories every day.
Yes.
And for some reason that just has rang in my head every day for the last 3 years now. I have 3 years of sobriety, and it's a shame that it was something like that provoked it.
Right.
But I still have that under my belt, and so that's my philosophy is challenge. But then the next step of it is inspiration, because you have hard days.
Yes.
I mean, there's days where I live minute by minute, whole AA slogan one day at a time, and so sometimes you need inspiration.
Right.
Which is why I have a fan. Let me change this over. That's why I have a fan page.
Oh, nice.
Anyone who makes the connection and sees the value in it, they can log in every day and receive that daily dose of inspiration, and just another source of it, because there's plenty of voices out there. Once you start to get active in your recovery, you realize that there's a lot of resources out there, which is why I'm so glad you're able to join me, because y'all have, I took a tour the other day.
Yes.
And y'all provide a lot, and y'all do a lot, and so do you mind just sharing me about what all y'all offer?
Sure, not a problem. So we've been in existence since 2012. We took over another ministry, and we have 89 beds in our main facility on Jefferson. 48 of them are reserved beds, 24/7 access. The other 41 are night-by-night check-in. And so with the 48 beds that we have, we offer case management, and it's really open to anybody, but we found that the guests who are utilizing the 24/7 beds engage with case management much more often. One, because it's required, but also they're more willing to fulfill those appointments. And so with that, in the case management, we work on their vital documents, because so often keeping your birth certificate, your IDs, social security card is really difficult. And so case management will work with that. It's also working with the guests to self-define their goals. So it could be little goals, not just big ones like employment and moving out. It's like, what do you need to do on a daily basis, and even week by week.
Right.
So we work with that. We also have outside service providers that will come in and offer services that we can't possibly do. So we have Salud Mental Health, or Salud Medical will come in. We have Medicaid come in. We have the food bank come in and help get guests connected to Medicaid. We have the Department of Human Services. We offer, any agency that we can partner with in the community to help provide things that the guests need help with. We're trying to do that, and we do that in a very limited space.
Right.
You've seen our space.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit challenging, but we do the best we can.
Well, that's great, and you make do with it really well, it seems. And are y'all able to collaborate with other facilities like the Murphy Center for Hope?
Yes. So we're on every week. We're on various partner agency meetings, and so Murphy Center is a big part of it, the continuum of care, so for housing. So every week we collaborate with other partners to be able to address the issues with our guests.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And within the case management, because there's not comorbidities, but there's there's codependencies to homelessness that's more of a root cause to it. Now,
Right.
when these folks that are engaged with case management, how are y'all addressing the root causes of homelessness?
So part of the intake process is doing, assessment, and it's really all self-defined though. It's really, is the guest willing to admit their challenges, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's mental health, whether it's a felony charge. Right. So it's really self-defined. But when we can build trust with the guests, they're much more willing to share that information. And so then we can connect them to the resources to be able to help address those issues. So
sure. And I spent about 7 years living on the streets, on and off, just kind of spinning tires in my hometown. Yeah. I never checked into a shelter, though. I never worked with a professional. I just kind of scraped and clawed my way out. Right. And I give it all to God. I'm a religious person. I try not to make the show about religion, but I'm a very strong man of God. I give it all to God. He delivered me through grace. Yep. But that being said, I'm not really too well versed in how it all goes down and the way it is, but from my perspective is it's a process, because you have to think about how a person gets to that position, and right. to build the trust and to build the rapport. That's a very vital process, because I never even thought of going to a shelter. Government's kind of been my family when my family wasn't my family, but I never felt comfortable, and I think that's a big stigma about homeless shelters, right. is that they don't feel safe for some reason. But I saw nothing. This office is right across the street, right. So for the last year, which is almost kind of what provoked me even starting this show, was I was right across the street from the homeless shelter.
And you can see it day to day.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I just got into real estate, and I was like, dude, I'm going to soon close my first deal. I'm never going to have to think about this part of my life again. But that's not going to give me strength. That's not going to help other people. And but that place right there seems like y'all are doing so much great stuff. And so I really want to help. Part of this episode is kind of shatter some of these stigmas.
Right. Right.
And can you kind of elaborate a little bit about that whole? Do you understand the stigma behind why they don't feel safe in the shelter? Yeah. What's that all about?
So, most individuals that come through the doors and stay with us, everyone actually in society has had some form of trauma in their life, and some more than others. And so when you come into a space that is very tight, it's like our beds are very close to each other. And, depending on the trauma that you've experienced in your life, you may not want to be next to your neighbor who's 2 feet away from you. And so I get, safety is a huge concern. Now, our core principles, we try to keep everyone safe, their physical body safe. We try to keep their possessions secure, We try to keep the facility as sanitary as we possibly can, particularly through COVID. We did, huge measures to keep the facility as clean as possible. And then we also try to engage with social interactions. And then if we can meet those first 4, then we could create, as much as we can, a more serene environment. But depending on the trauma that people experience, they don't want to go into a shelter like that. And so, we try to address those, as people come in, the best that we can. But one is creating rapport and relationships with the individuals, so they feel like, if they're feeling unsafe, they can go to staff and express their concerns. And so then we try to address those as quickly as we can.
And I guess another factor of it is when you first cycle into homelessness, you don't know anybody, you know? And then you have to start making connections in a whole different way you would than in different, secure society. And so I guess it's about getting that word out to the new folks that are cycling, unfortunately to say it, cycling in and experiencing it. They don't, they have the stigma from it being kind of popularized through culture, but the truth of the matter is that's not that at all. Right. And to get that word out so that they feel secure, because then you go through months of just living out on the streets and you get beat down. Right. And then it's it's a whole different ballgame at that point. You want to try to, a big hope of this show is to help upstream solutions creatively through this production, But like, I was homeless as a teenager, as a young adult. A lot of, the leading demographic of people to go into homeless right now is boomers, statistically, but
Right.
for a child or a young adult to be going into it and then have their whole life ahead of them,
Right.
it really just sets them off on a bad course. So,
Right.
and anything you can do to upstream solutions, people from coming in, that cleans up the system for the people who are already there to start cycling people out.
Right.
Because that is the one thing that I have noticed, and it's not a critique, it's just an observation, is that I don't see anyone cycling out of that facility. So do you have any success stories you could share?
Sure. So I looked at some of our stats for 2023, and we actually had 66 individuals move into more sustainable housing. So, I mean, it's hard to tell, like, who is coming and who is staying, but we did have 66 individuals who found housing outside of shelters. So
that's great.
Yeah. And then we also referred, with the continuum of care, we referred 128 individuals into the housing system. Now, sometimes that's a process, So there are success stories. I mean, we've reunited some of our guests with family, in other parts of the country. We will buy bus tickets for individuals when we can confirm that they have a safe place to go to, and not
Sure.
just say, hey, I need a bus ticket. It's like, no, we need to confirm that they have a place to land and stay. And then we also refer them to other recovery programs. If they want to work on addictions, we have a great facility up in Wellington called Harvest Farms. And so we make referrals to them, and then other, agencies too who have sober living environments. So people do transition out.
Yeah.
But we had, in 2023, we had 874 unique individuals who came through our door.
Okay.
472 of them were brand new to the Fort Collins Rescue Mission.
Right.
In 2023.
Okay.
And so, we only can sleep 89 individuals on a given night.
Yeah.
So some of them will transition really quick. Sometimes it's just they need a place to land for a couple of days, and then they get reconnected and move on.
Which I don't mean to cut you off, but that's what's so vital. Like, everyone says, oh, well, they have some motivation to keep homelessness because they'll lose a job. Homelessness is something that people are always going to experience.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm not an economist, but my observation of it is that it's almost just an emergence of property of post-capitalism to like modern capitalism to post-modern capitalism. Is wherever that is, this is just going to exist.
Yeah.
People are going to fall in hard times, and because of how our society's set up, where proper channels aren't necessarily always going to be in place, but you guys are a proper channel.
Yeah.
You should always continue to exist because this will always be an issue.
Right, because unfortunately, it will never go away. And it's existed long before the United States ever existed.
I mean,
it's always been part of society.
Yes, it's not a United States thing.
Yes, it's a worldwide thing.
And what's so interesting is, I don't know if you got to look at the first two episodes. Wes, who was my second guest, I met him here in Fort Collins, but he did something very similar that I did, and a lot of young children do. They have a desire just to go out and see the world.
Right.
And he was like, I think in his early 20s, or maybe like still a teenager, he had a bunch of video equipment, and it's all in the episode, but I'll quickly recap. And he took a trip out to LA to want to become a video editor. Day one, his backpack got stolen. He's now homeless in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
He spent 3 months in the shelter system in Hollywood. And he got himself back on track and was able to utilize the resources. He had family that he, hadn't abandoned, or he just was a kid that just wanted to go out, and he was able to come back, and I overheard him sharing that story with another person. I was like, oh, you're perfect to be a second guest. That's inspirational that you were able to just persevere through that at such a young age.
Yeah.
And the real key takeaway of that episode was that I did similar things as a young child, and I wouldn't discourage anyone to do that, but you have to recognize the reality and just the dangers, and just take care of yourself. But I actually, on my way to moving out here, I got stranded in Kentucky, and just left at a gas station with all my stuff, wallet, cell phone, in the girl's car.
Yeah.
And very kind people in Ashland, Kentucky raised enough money for me to get a Greyhound bus ticket to go home. and then I came back out here, and that's what started my whole journey moving to Colorado.
Okay.
So it's just great how, these resources always need to continue to exist.
Right.
There's no threat that, there's no motivation or no threat behind it.
We'd rather work ourselves out of a job. We'd
Right.
rather be able to solve homelessness and close our shelter.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that probably will never happen.
It'll continue to exist. Yeah.
But not everybody is capable of just working harder and getting out of their situation. There's so many reasons why individuals come into homelessness. Mental health is a huge one, and also, if a child doesn't learn resiliency, clearly you learned resiliency. Wes learned resiliency. Not everybody has that ability
Right.
and had the opportunity to learn those skills. And so it's really important to understand that, you can't just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because it doesn't exist for everybody.
Right.
And so they need extra help. They need guidance. They need to have a support system come around them to be able to get them to the next stage. And so you can't pigeonhole one reason to everybody, because it's just a vast majority of just so many reasons.
And that's the Christian, and not just Christian, but
Yeah.
that's the godly and Christian principle behind social welfare is not everybody has the capable means.
Right.
And, a civilized society should be able to take care and provide for all,
Yeah.
Regardless.
Share the resources that someone else might have to give to someone else who doesn't have it.
Right. Exactly. And it's great that you had brought up the Harvest Farm, because, I've spoke with the Hope team in Fort Collins Police Department,
Yep.
and they were the ones who told me about Harvest Farm. And
Yeah.
that sounds just like a great program you have for
is.
young men
Yep.
up in Wellington, Colorado. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, right now, they can hold up to 72 men, and it doesn't have to be young. It could be all ages. You just have to be somewhat physically mobile, because where they're placed to sleep and where they eat, their meals is kind of like a quarter mile, because it's on 100 acres.
Right, okay.
And so it's a working farm. And so they meet with case managers and chaplains, and they have a whole program. It's a 6 to 12 month program to be able to address the addictions that are.
And they learn working skills and
Yes.
good everyday skills that are going to help them be able to reassimilate
Yeah.
back into
So they
working
learn life
society.
skills. They work on their resumes and just basic life skills and career opportunities. And so it's a great, phenomenal program.
Absolutely.
So.
Now, for your perspective, since you're in the thick of it every
Mm-hmm.
day, do you mind kind of sharing what you think the current state of homelessness in northern Colorado is, and what the main challenges we're facing as a region are?
Yeah. So with Larimer County, because that's really the only statistic that I looked up. I didn't look up Weld County, but for Larimer County, they had over 578 individuals in 2023 experiencing homelessness. And it's increasing. It's not going away. Housing is a huge issue. No one can afford the rent. If individuals have any kind of a legal background, they've been incarcerated in any way, not all employers are willing to hire someone who has even misdemeanor charges, let alone felony charges. And so that really will limit someone. And then, their addictions and mental health. And so, I'm so thankful that the Longview Behavioral Health property opened up, but that's just beginning, and trying to address the mental health of so many individuals to be able to get stable so they can then focus on working and focus on what they need to do. So if part of the issue is, we need to be able to have a holistic system in place to, provide housing opportunities at all levels of income to address mental health issues that are increasing in our society, not just with people experiencing homelessness, but just across the state, because we've had a lot of traumatic events. COVID was a huge thing that caused a lot of traumatic events in people's lives. And then so having that ability and having recovery services. So it's like the more a community can build that together and not just incarcerate everybody, because that doesn't solve it either.
Right.
So,
and, I moved to Fort Collins February of 21. I moved to Colorado 3 weeks before the pandemic hit the news, and I was so lucky that I landed the job that I had lined up when I got here, or I wouldn't have. I mean, it's just like fate that everything has happened. And I say that to say this: I love the moniker of the Choice City for Fort Collins. I know that it originated as like the Choice City for Denverites to move to in the event of a nuclear attack, but it's that, and that's actually the history of it. But I like it just. This is a great city. It's developed so well. It's got a strong community. And I just feel like with my mission, using the kind of adapting that moniker, this could be the model city. Like down in Colorado Springs, they have the HOT team, and homeless outreach team, and Fort Collins, we have the HOPE team,
which I like so much better.
It sounds so much better, got way better connotation. I mean, we don't need to be fire hosing these people off of the sidewalks. Because Colorado, and uniquely Colorado versus a lot of other state histories, is like we came up as miners and boarding houses. Like you have the tenement buildings of New York back in the late 1900s, but like uniquely Colorado, we all came here. Like even me, like coming here on a Greyhound bus was very enigmatic of how the original pioneers came here on wagons. Like. This was not ours. This was the Utes, and we were we had boarding houses. We have to remember that and have compassion that some people are just coming here for the first time on an adventure that we know nothing about.
Right. They're searching for a better life. They're searching for life.
Exactly. And so I agree with you. Housing is a huge factor right now. I think Fort Collins is doing a really Fort Collins City Council is doing a really good job making sure that affordable housing is a top priority in their zoning. I know that they just approved. I went to one of their workshops last fall. I think they just approved 632 affordable housing units and multifamily units, things like that. And so I really think between the HOPE team, what you have at the Rescue Mission, me being creative with this production, we all collaborate together, and we really can be a model for the rest of the country, and just kind of broadcast, hope and inspiration. And one of the things that I kind of wanted to spitball was like different creative ideas. One of the things that came up in that workshop that I attended is the city of Fort Collins is about to face like $1 million budget shortfall that they have they initially had COVID relief funding.
Which is all ending right now.
And they're about to face in 2024 $1 million shortfall budget shortfall, which sounds, insurmountable, but it's also just a good idea away, but it takes creativity to be able to manifest that. Is that something that you guys ever think about?
Fort Collins Rescue Mission is part of the Denver Rescue Mission.
Okay.
And so it's just one of the properties, just like Harvest Farm is one of the properties. And so Denver Rescue Mission has been around for over 130 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so long, rich history. And so we can't be everything to everybody.
Sure.
And so we really do try to focus on the things that we do really well. And that, for our location, because we have several locations across Denver and then the two up here. But for this location right now, our focus is emergency services to be able to keep really people alive. And then if we could get them into a stable place, then, partner with the other agencies that do other stuff really well. Because we don't want to duplicate services either.
Absolutely.
Because then it doesn't benefit everybody. And takes away resources from others who can do what they do well.
Sure.
But we are in the process of building a new building. And so, because right now, you've seen our old building, and we can only do so much in that building. And we would love to do more. And so we are in a capital campaign right now to be able to help, build a new space that will be trauma-informed in its creation. And I don't even think Colorado has had a new shelter that's been specifically built to address homelessness.
Right.
And so this new building is created in such a way that when guests enter it, they will feel safe. They will be able to start to decompress from the traumas that they've experienced, that led them up to that point. We will have case management. We will have more services available with either outside partner agencies coming in to provide that service on site, because traveling, if you're experiencing homelessness, and especially in winter, and going through just a block or 2 blocks in the snow, in the wind chill, we've had some very cold weekends already this winter, and if you got to go from this location to that location just to get basic services,
right,
it's extremely difficult. So with the new building that we're building, we're going to be able to bring in other agencies to come in and provide services in one place. And so that's kind of a creative way of starting to address the issues of homelessness. And so we're just really looking forward to that. And we will be able to serve up to 250 men in that new space. And then also have a community center side that women will eventually be able to get into during the day. And so they'll have access to the services that we offer. So that's one creative way that we're working to address this, because it's a stabling platform,
sure,
foundation, and then they can start moving on to other areas to be able to address a person's own homelessness.
And I guess really what I meant in a practical sense from you as a service provider is really that, creating a more holistic center, kind of breaking that stigma, being able to offer services all in one place. So that, and then, like you said, focusing on the mental health aspect of it. Because I guess, and then to kind of add on to that point, one of the things that kind of spurred this was I should have had it on here on the table, is the homeless resource. It's like a blue pamphlet that the Murphy Center has. And I see nothing as far as mentorship, or guidance or anything like that. And I just felt like maybe I could fill that void through this. The whole thing is just I started a nonprofit. I'm still working to get my 501c3. It's hard. It's harder to start a nonprofit than it is a business, for certain, and that's for good reason, because of just you're not using the allocation of funds. So I understand the complexity of it, but it's hard. So I'm trying to start a nonprofit alongside this, and it'd be a mentorship nonprofit. It'd be a program where you apply. There's rules and terms and conditions to be able to have access to the benefits, and the whole goal of the show is to switch from interview style to like live call-in. Where anyone in the country who sees value, is ready to make change, and is ready to put in the work, they can call in. I've had to kind of knuckle and brawl my way to where I'm at, but it's made me very resilient and just capable of going online and finding a way. And then, if we hit a curve in the road, we deal with it when it comes. But that's the whole interactiveness of the show and the creative approach to it. And I am going to monetize this channel, and it works in partnership with the nonprofit, but they're completely separate and transparent. And that was my way, because I hear about the budget shortfalls, and I already know, like the experience of California and homelessness. And, I'm just thinking, I've pulled myself out my bootstraps. I know not everyone can, but I can at least do my part. And like my mother suffered with alcoholism my whole life and passed away at a young age, and so it's like I'm doing this for her, and just all these other factors. And so maybe, and you have actually a gentleman, I'm not going to say his name right now for privacy and everything, to respect him. He knows me, and he's over there. He's been over there for maybe about a year now. And I want to see him do well, because I care about him, and it's not about me exploiting his story on camera. I truly want to help him. And like Ryan, who he for some reason does not feel comfortable going in there, but he's been homeless in Fort Collins for a year and a half now, and it's like I feel like if every citizen who's capable could just find one or two people to kind of just take under the not take care of them. Both of them know I can't help them in that sense. But I can motivate them, I can inspire them, and I can give them good words of advice when
Right.
they need it, you know.
Yeah.
And if everyone along the community does.
So with Harvest Farm, they have mentors, so people can volunteer to be mentors to the men in the program. And with the rescue mission, we have chaplains that come in to be kind of their spiritual mentors and to be able to guide them and direct them and just to be encouragement to them. We also have, we have volunteers that come in. And, they oftentimes will build relationships, with our guests and offer that support and encouragement. We also have, Celebrate Recovery that comes inside. And then, with recovery programs, they have their mentors or their sponsors, to be able to encourage those guys. So we have different ways of having those mentors, come in. Now, it's not necessarily like, oh, you're assigned to this person, but the support system is there to be able to encourage those who really are seeking a better way.
And letting it be organic and open door is much better than trying to force it down somebody. You can't chastise somebody into changing. You can only love them into compassion into changing.
Yeah.
So maybe this is something we could talk about off camera about how we could collaborate. Because, like I said, this is not a channel about exploitation.
Right.
It's raise awareness and take action and activism.
Yes.
So I'd love to be able to help you guys. If you know anyone who can benefit from mentorship and outreach and is ready to take it, just point them my way. And I said the same thing with the Hope team, is that they see anyone on the streets that they feel like a different voice could help get through to them.
Right.
So
our website also, I'm happy to talk to you offline too, but our website has a volunteer tab.
Oh, okay.
And so one of it, is just either basic meal service, but there's also a way to become what we call a change maker. So you could, volunteer to be a change maker and be able to breathe life into the guests that come through our doors.
Are you a native of Colorado?
No, I'm not.
Where are you from originally?
California.
California?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been out here 10 years.
Okay.
So.
I love Californians for the simple fact that, historically, they made it all the way across the country by wagon.
Right.
Built up the greatest economy, let's just say, the greatest economy for a state. And then as soon as it didn't get good, they're like, all right, we're packing up and we're moving again. I just think that's so funny. Some people might not like that about them, but I don't know, it's just like the American spirit. We're just going to pack up and go and make it all over again somewhere else.
Yeah.
I like that about Californians. Yeah. I actually wanted to move to California.
It's a beautiful state. I love the ocean. That is where my heart is at. But my sister was out here, so I moved out here for my sister.
Very good.
Yeah.
I own my own aerial photography business. Okay. That's what I do in congruency with real estate. And I took a road trip out west to see the Pacific Ocean last year. And Pismo Beach, Santa Barbara.
Beautiful areas.
Yeah, great. I really just love the central coast of California.
Yeah.
Are you down in South California, Southern California?
I've lived in both. So I was born in Southern California, so in Orange County, I used to say 10 minutes from Disneyland. And then I lived in San Jose for 20 years. And so I'm familiar with pretty much the whole coast.
San Jose is Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the southern tip of the bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I really like California.
Yeah.
But Colorado's where I landed.
Yeah.
And
me too.
I'm on a Jeremiah Johnson story.
Okay.
Have you ever watched that movie?
No.
Robert Redford?
Oh, no.
It's a classic, 60s movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about apparently he was a historical figure.
Okay.
He moved to Colorado, escaping the Spanish-American War, and then married an Indian woman.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Oh, it's vaguely sounding familiar now, but
It's a good movie, Robert Redford film. And so anyways, this all kind of leads into my final point, is historically, about Colorado. So you being a Californian, your family ties are probably somewhat rooted in the same kind of mining, came in, we're boarding towns. So I want to kind of, not talking about it personally, within your family, but just kind of touch base on that, because there's such a stigma now. I mean, we, for all intents and purposes, we kind of ignore the homeless on the street until it's gotten so bad that we can't anymore. And you being a professional, you might be able to more eloquently kind of speak on this. What are your thoughts? You've had to have thought about this, about, how we as a community have kind of just lost that sense of togetherness. And what are your thoughts on?
I really just encourage everyone to look at each person as an individual. It's we had, and so this is one story. we had an individual who was in our shelter, and the other guest really admired him and looked up to him, and he was very friendly and caring, and he ended up passing away. And I remember thinking, we went to his service, and I was so touched because he had family and they loved him, and trying to really remember that. It's like when you see someone experiencing homelessness on the streets, it's like, remember that they are someone's family. They are a brother, an uncle, a son, a nephew, or a daughter or a sister or whatever. And it's like, just don't pass them by. Get to know them on an individual basis. And yeah, mental health can make them appear scary, but really just address them as an individual, as a human, as another fellow creation. And, it's like, really see them that they have value and worth. And, there's so many reasons why maybe they can't be with their family, and we can't possibly explain all those reasons, but just know that, they deserve to be loved and cared for and just cherished as an individual. And so when we can see the humanity behind the human, it really changes our perspective on how we want to treat them, as opposed to just casting them aside and walking past them and ignoring them and just expecting the worst of them. It's like, expect the best of them, because we have amazing gentlemen living in our shelter. It's like, once you get to know them, they are amazing, and they have talents and they have abilities, but they also have trauma that keeps them back, and the hurts. And so it's like trying to break through that to be able to get them to be the person that God created them to be, is like really our goal. We want them to be who they were created to be. And it takes a community to be able to do that.
Completely. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I think we ought to end it on that, Paula. I really appreciate you joining me. You do great work over at the Rescue Mission. Anybody who's viewing this in Colorado, please support the Rescue Mission. And if you know anybody who's in need of services, encourage them to take effect of that. And thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
It was great to have you on, Paula.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Like, subscribe, share, and follow.